Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast on what is a beautiful Tuesday here in Australia, and I have the pleasure this morning to welcome all the way from Boulder in Colorado in the US, Sue Heilbronner, coming in from Colorado. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, Darren. It's so great to be with you today. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, and thanks for joining. This is going to be a great conversation because we're going to talk about selling, but also the concept of your soon-to-be released book, which, when people are listening to this, it has probably already been released. So we do encourage, and we will let people know how to get a copy of it. A book called Never Ask for the Sale, which I'm really intrigued to delve into in terms of the background. You're also, and I've said this to you before we jumped into the recording phase. You've got an interesting background as well because you're a former CEO, but also a former federal prosecutor. You've done a
Yes.
lot of stuff in your career, and now you've
Yeah,
written a book about sales.
I know. It makes perfect sense. You quoted Steve Jobs in a recent episode, and it's one of my favorite quotes about connecting the dots in hindsight. And
Yeah,
I think that applies to all unusual resumes.
it does. It does. So I'm really interested in first, before we jump into some of the key, I guess, concepts of the book, really like to delve into a little bit about your background. I was going to read out your very extensive bio, but I thought, and we thought, hey, let's just have a
Please don't.
conversation.
Yes.
Was that because it's so impressive?
No, just don't. It's good. We'll get the highlights.
All right, so what we'll do then is we'll let you just give a Reader's Digest version of your background because I'm really intrigued as to what has happened that's been the catalyst for you to write this book, and what's the dream or the purpose for this book in 2025.
I was hoping you were going to answer that last question, but okay, I'll go with you here. So I did want to be an attorney from a very young age and became a federal prosecutor in the United States Department of Justice Civil Rights Division when I was, younger, and that was very different than what it is today. But we won't go into that. You know enough about what's happening in the United States to know things are a little different right now, but uh, who knows? Anyway, not a topic for today. After that, the internet started happening. The consumer internet really started getting to be a thing. And I got very excited about that.
Mm.
And at night, as a moonlighting venture, I started my own e-commerce venture on Yahoo Stores, which is old people's version of Shopify. And I just couldn't believe that you could have just a business, an online business that looked like a real thing,
Mm.
without it really being a real thing. It was still, brick and mortar days largely. And I loved the experience of selling this company and the baby products, which I decided to make as the foundation of this company's business. I
Yeah.
loved it so much that even though I thought I had the best lawyer job that would be available in the world for me, I decided to leave the law and transition into business. So I worked for what is now Warner Brothers Discovery for a number of years, doing online biz dev and some brand licensing stuff.
Yep.
And then I realized I was a little too rebellious to work in a large company. So I went into the world of startups, primarily in a CRO function, then in a C. So there is a sales logic here, then to be a
Mm.
CEO. And I was just an operator for about 15 years in tech. At some point in there, I founded or co-founded a venture fund that was focused on companies that had at least one woman in leadership, and that is still running. Frankly, we don't make active investments anymore, but the fund's been around for about 14 years. And then about a decade ago, I became an executive coach, also primarily focused in tech. So since the internet was very, very young, I have been involved, and it has been a great ride, just in different roles. And what's true is every one of those roles was a sales role, including the lawyer role where you're selling
Mm.
cases to juries.
Mm. It's interesting, and that hey, that's a really eclectic mix. But when you espouse that, it actually has a sense of logic to it as well. To say, well, you've been in law, you've looked at an opportunity to take advantage of the internet boom. You've then actually used some of your understanding of the law in building those businesses, and eventually having to tell a story, which you would have had to have done a lot as a lawyer, as a prosecutor, to try and influence people. And then full circle, you're now an executive coach working with organizations, working with leaders, working with entrepreneurs to help them become better and add better value to the world they live in, which is phenomenal.
Thank you. That was a great articulation of that. And I love just the thread of storytelling, which obviously, given that this is, we're now in your 800th or so podcast episode, something that I know is central to how you contribute to the world.
Yeah, thank you. So I'd love to know I mean, with that transition that you've gone through, what was it that said to you, "Hey, I need to put a book out in the world"? Was there a theme that you were noticing? Was it just an itch you needed to scratch? What was it that was the catalyst for the book?
So, in the same way as you have been podcasting now for 5 years, seemingly every week or more, I
Mm,
don't even know. It would be hard to interpolate from what I see. 800 episodes, 5 years, a lot.
yeah,
I've been blogging for a very, very long time, and I love blogging. I just really enjoy writing. I like short form writing. I like writing where you don't have to edit it to the very nth degree because you'll be forgiven, and also people will tell you you have a typo and you go and you fix the typo. It's great. Uh, so I enjoyed that. And there has always been a bit of a hunger. I'm a really avid reader. There's been a bit of a hunger, I don't know, to just check the box, I guess.
mm,
Just try to write something that's long form and slightly more enduring, maybe, who knows? Because the internet stuff is pretty enduring too. And something was happening. I built my coaching business really successfully from the beginning, which makes sense. I mean, candidly, for anyone listening, once you get old enough, if you're decent at what you do and you do a lot of different things, you have a pretty good network. And if
yeah,
you're a nice person, if you're generous, a lot of the book is about that, how to be generous as a business development exercise. In any event, um, I had built a nice practice, and people were coming to me when they were asking me how I had done this from zero to whatever.
yeah,
And I just realized, like, sitting on the couch at parties and explaining this to people or setting up calls and explaining it was not scalable. So I thought, well, maybe this is the thing. This is the
mm,
book. I think like you must be, I'm so passionate about selling. Candidly, I worry sometimes that I like selling my work more than I like doing my work. Yeah, so I should just be a sales agent for other people. But in any event, I also like doing my work. But that's the story. I actually wrote this book basically for my friends who had been asking and getting some value out of what I was sharing. And then I thought there's another piece of it, Darren, which is that the book's quite transparent about
yeah,
money and how to make money and how to have a referral network and what the parameters could be for your referral network.
yeah.
And I had a number of teachers when I began my company, and they helped me with that. And I don't think there's nearly enough transparency around money and growing a
Mm.
business out in the world. So I wanted to set that example.
And it's a really interesting title also of the book, Sue, because and it's almost, and I want to ask whether this is counterintuitive because I work with a lot of sales teams and a lot of their challenges, and maybe this is a mindset thing that we sort of talked about before we press record. For whatever reason, they're a little bit reluctant to have to ask for the sale. They almost just assume the sale's going to happen. So the title for the book, was that something that was a little bit of a pattern interrupt, or is there legitimacy behind it to the point where if you do things well, which we'll kind of talk about, the inevitable outcome will be a sale that you won't have to ask for?
I think it's both. So thank you for asking that in that way. I think it is a pattern interrupt because I think, especially now, it was one thing to have BDRs and SDRs and email outreach and all that outbound stuff happening. And then even the patter of asking for the sale was increasing, in my opinion, especially for tech companies, the kind of companies you and I both spend time with. And I also had the lens of looking at companies that were trying to raise money for their tech startups. And what I was seeing is the companies that were going with their hat in hand, metaphorically, and asking for something,
Yeah.
asking for investment, instead of creating an impression that momentum was happening, that the seller or the person, the founder, was busy, active, things were going to come together, confident,
Yeah.
and leveraging a really good product and a lot of really good behavior that they had accumulated over time, that the actual positioning of asking left them in a submissive position vis-a-vis the
Mm,
buyer instead of on an equal playing field. And I think that's disadvantageous. The argument I make is, sure, of course you're gonna sometimes ask for the sale. It's not really never, but if you ask twice, you're at a disadvantage.
mm,
And the dynamic I like to create as a seller is, what I am putting down is so good that you're going to come back to me. And I like to think about that in the context of what I call in the book passionate ambivalence.
mm.
I can be really excited about working with you, selling the thing to you, the thing that I am selling, but I want to be a little bit ambivalent about whether you or any individual person actually buys it. And
Yeah.
if I can actually create that dynamic, my argument is I get better customers, better pricing, better life.
I love that because we're going to deal because you got some principles around passionate ambivalence, particularly in a funnel, which I'd like to delve into. As you were talking, I'm thinking that makes so much sense because essentially the way I look at that, it's if you focus on service and the fit of a problem that a customer or potential customer has without having to try to retrofit your solution into what you think is a perceived problem. It's
Yep.
no longer a push sale, it's probably a pull sale. And then to disassociate from the need to have that customer come on board, it's like, well, if you come on board or not, it's all good. I'm still moving forward.
Yes. And, sometimes I'll get a challenge about this idea, and someone will say, look, I'm just out of university and I don't have any clients. And I will say, at the very beginning of running my own independent business, especially since I had just left a real executive CRO job,
Mm,
I did need clients. My pricing looked different. But so I might have been a little bit wider in the funnel. I might have qualified people just a bit less. I certainly priced differently, no
yeah.
question about it. But the idea is, as you build momentum, to let this perception of that momentum sync up with the reality of that. You're not being dishonest. This is a
Mm,
totally authentic practice. You have to get yourself really to understand that in addition to having better pricing, probably better clients, and a better fit between you and this piece of business,
mm,
you ultimately have a happier life. You may have to sell less because
mm.
your pricing is going to be stronger, because the value you deliver, as you said, is so in alignment with what this prospect actually needs.
Yeah. Which means you have to have a really good understanding of what your ideal customer looks like.
Totally. Yeah, there's a
And
whole
then,
chapter on ICP. I agree with you. And I think the way when people hear ICP, I think their natural thought is what you just said. You didn't say you do it, but you say
yeah.
it happens, which is contorting who you are to
Mm,
meet some theoretical ICP. And this book goes the opposite direction. The idea is you are what you sell, you are your USP. And if you start from you and then emanate out to the market, you'll
yeah.
be far more successful.
Yes. And you will attract people and organizations who will be a much better fit than you going out to the market trying to say, "Hey, come and work with me. Look at all these bells
Exactly.
and whistles." Because
Yeah.
it's more of a it's an energy thing. It's fascinating. And even when I talk to business leaders and how some seem to have the Midas touch and others don't. And if you look at the what they're actually doing, it's on a level playing field. They're probably doing the same thing, right? They're doing discovery calls, they're making prospecting calls, they're putting proposals in, but one team tends to get the results and the other one doesn't get anywhere near the results. And I really think it's that thought process of, hey, I'm not overly attached to the outcome in terms of whether you come on board or not. I know what I've got to offer the marketplace. But I'm only going to work with people who are going to be a fit, who are in the right buying cycle and fit my ideal customer profile right now. And if not, hey, guess what? The worst thing that can happen is at least I plant a seed for future. And when you are ready, maybe you'll come back to me.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And you're building up so much trust when you
Mm,
say that. So even if you're not a fit for that prospect to whom you say that, their buddy that they're going to play golf with on Saturday, they now know what they like you. You were
yeah.
honest. You didn't blow their money. You didn't
Mm,
waste their time. And that then you get word of mouth off turn downs, which is quite a feat.
mm. So before we jump into, because I do want to explore this topic of passionate ambivalence,
Yeah.
but it starts with selling yourselves, right? And I'll be interested in the work that you've done, particularly as an executive coach, where people have been asking you, how do you do this and all that sort of stuff. What are some of the challenges you've seen with most people when it comes to selling self? Because in Australia, at least, we've got this thing called the tall poppy syndrome, right? So
Right.
nobody wants to go out and big note themselves and say, "Oh, look what I've done," and come and work with me. Um, what are some of the challenges you find that people, whether it be solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, executives, um, CEOs, have to get over or work through in order to be more comfortable selling themselves?
Yes, and I love that you raised that, especially the tall poppy thing. And I guess we have less of that in the United States. We do perhaps have a slightly higher degree of arrogance, don't know. But in any event, in my experience, almost any time I needed to get stories for this book, and almost everyone I identified, and I would say something like, "Hey, I'm writing a book. A part of this book is identifying people who really start the sales engine from themselves, who
Mhm.
place themselves at the center of the sale. And I think you do a brilliant job of that. I watch you on LinkedIn. I've seen you sell. I've been on the other side of the table from you." They still had some resistance around this. But the truth is, once you get into a conversation about what you mean when you say you perceive this, is that ultimately they do recognize it. I have one CEO that I feature in the book. Her company actually did, I have two actually. Their companies did an analysis and they realized that when either of these two CEOs speaks, either loudly on social media or at events, their incoming leads, sales qualified leads, go up dramatically just from that CEO speaking.
Wow.
So that's the answer, right? Something special. And what it is in both cases, and I would suggest lots of cases, is a really incredible marriage between the thing that CEO or seller or solopreneur is deeply passionate about and the thing that they're doing. It's hard to resist. I mean, absent an allergy, if someone leaves an ice cream store and says, "This s'mores ice cream is the best ice cream I've ever had," and they tell you about it for 5 minutes, I mean, it's pretty hard not to want that ice cream.
That's right.
And and that's all that. So it's not as if the idea of you being at the center of the sale isn't the argument that, "Hey, I'm great, buy from me because I'm great." The argument is, "Hey, I'm trustworthy, and the thing that I'm talking to you about is connected to things that I'm great at, my zones of genius," a
Mm,
phrase coined by Gay Hendricks in his book The Big Leap, the values that I value the most. If I roll, and my talent, and if I roll all that up together and say, "This is the thing I'm putting out in the world," even if it's a SaaS product that I didn't invent, this is why I care about this HR software.
yeah.
Personally, I have a deep connection to it. If I do that, you're just unbeatable, because my belief is people do buy products, but they also buy people. They buy stories from real people whom they trust.
Yes. And they and this is my belief, and we'll talk about beliefs in a second and mindset, but my belief is that people will buy from people and not necessarily lead with the product. So they won't I say this to sales teams all the time. Just think for a second. Your customers, your potential customers are not waking up today, or in your case, not waking up on Tuesday morning, tomorrow, and thinking, oh, I think I'll go and buy that CRM system from Darren. They're not thinking that. What they're thinking is, I've got a problem I need to solve. Who do I potentially know who might have an answer to that problem? That is a solution. So they'll buy you first before they'll buy the product. So why are we spending so much time trying to flog the product when we should be spending time selling ourselves in terms of why would they want to do business with me? What makes it about me that is so
Yes.
attractive?
Or why would they listen to me even? Just starting there. Like why would
Yeah.
they take my call?
Yes.
And I
Yes.
found this to be particularly, I find it to be true in the founder investment landscape. I've had so many founders in whom I've invested or our fund has invested who wake up one day and decide that they're completely pivoting their business. They could be pivoting industries.
Mm.
And in every case where it's happened, our response, and they've offered, hey, do you want to get out of the company? This is a big change. You didn't expect it. In every case, it's been no. Are you still there? Oh, you're still there. Cool. You're still a founder. Great. I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is a huge vote of confidence. But not everybody may have that. So I wanted to talk about your experience around working with a lot of these people around their belief, but also their mindset. And um, sometimes mindset can sound a little bit woo-woo to many people, particularly if we're in a big, heavy industrial industry. We don't
Yeah.
talk about manifestation. But for your experience, how big has mindset and belief systems been in terms of an organization's success, but also the success of the senior leaders or the entrepreneurs?
I think it's really significant. And I think I'm as hippie as they come. I'm not as hippie as they come, but I can be a hippie too. So I'm not afraid of woo-woo things. And I love how much you talk about mindset in your podcasts and your guest selection. I think it's significant. What I think can be challenging is helping people understand the tools to help them get into that mindset. And I hope I've done a decent job and never asked for the sale in giving them just very, very granular tools to help them identify what are their limiting beliefs?
Mm,
Where did their limiting beliefs come from?
yeah.
Let's test their limiting beliefs in terms of veracity and credibility. Is it time to reinvent or reconsider a limiting belief that may have been 30 years old because it came from a parent when you were 3 years old? That's
Yeah.
one important step. Another important step is, can I get behind this thing that I'm actually doing, knowing that I'm applying the best parts of me
Mm,
and actually make that connection so that what's out in the world, it may not be awesome objectively, but it's certainly as awesome as anything I could do because it's the very best parts of me. And that's just work. You could just do that homework.
yeah.
And then just the last, not the last piece, but another piece I really advocate for, and I think it's really confidence building, is finding ways you can give in your community or on social media, finding ways you can be generous with people and
Mm,
offer the things you're great at or amplify voices, something that you specifically are great at, and how you can do that to contribute to the betterment of people, the betterment of the whole. Because it's been my experience, especially in writing this book. In my community, there's a culture of give first. It's called, this idea of give first was created by Techstars, the
okay.
startup global company, and Brad Feld, who just recently released a book called Give First. And something about launching this book, like I asked people to do things. Will you buy a copy of the book? Will you review, all the things you ask when you're trying to launch a book.
Yeah.
And I don't know, no one's saying no. They're not saying no because I'm awesome. They're saying no because I've tried to be helpful.
Oh, they are saying no because they're saying yes because you're awesome, Sue. Come
Oh
on.
yeah. I don't know about that. I think I said those words wrong, but you know what I mean. I mean, those little things, they really matter. When you go on LinkedIn and you see that somebody needs something totally random and specific and you have it, and you take that extra 10 minutes to make that work for people, I
Yeah.
think it really changes how you are perceived when you go to sell something.
It's the classic law of reciprocity that Cialdini talks about in his book and the laws of influence that and my perspective, having been in sales for 20 plus years, is a
Yeah.
lot of organizations and a lot of salespeople think of sales as a transaction. So they're looking at, I'm going to build a relationship with you, Sue, because I want something from you, versus, and we'll get into the ambivalence, the passion ambivalence in a second. But
Yeah.
if I build a relationship with you because I care about you and you're interesting to me, and I'm interested in you, then chances are that through that process, I'm going to give you my time. I'm going to give you I guess, my perspectives with no expectation of anything in return. But what happens? You tend to get things in return that you either don't expect, didn't ask for, but hey, it's a bonus.
Yeah. Or even and couldn't even have imagined. That's the
No.
other thing. That's really, really awesome when that
Yeah.
happens. Yeah.
Because it's almost like this tension that, and I see it in sales teams, particularly if they're under pressure to hit a quota by the end of the month or the end of the end of the quarter, and they've got their sales directors hammering them. You know, what's your gap closure strategy? You got to get this in. Do whatever it takes to bring it in. So there's this air of desperation and neediness, and I often call it commission breath that gets projected onto customers, thinking, "Oh, I need to get this sale. Can you help me out?" Versus, hey, if we've done it really well, if we've built a good network and a good reputation, you're probably going to have customers looking for opportunities to help you. And it might just be a subtle, and there might be times when you do have to ask them a question or a favor and you call a favor, but that's okay, right? As long as you're
That's
not doing it all the
totally.
time.
Yeah. I mean, I think I see nothing. I love, by the way, commission breath is hilarious. I promise I will footnote it whenever I use that phrase, but that's absolutely brilliant. That's exactly the feeling. Um, and I love the idea. It's the end of the month and you really do want to hit your quota and you've been talking to a customer for 2 months and you call your contact and you say, look, Jim, I mean, it seems like we're going to do this business. And I know it's wrapped up in legal on your side, but let me just tell you, it's the end of the month and I'm crushing it this month. I would have a huge escalation if in my comp, if we could do this today instead of tomorrow.
Yeah.
Could you help? You could just be authentic about that.
Mm,
And I think that beats the heck out of commission breath, which is,
totally.
yeah.
Totally. Because the other thing, Sue, is my belief is that there are people out there that actually want to help you,
Yes.
but they're not necessarily going to do it by osmosis. They're waiting for you to ask them the question for whatever reason. So if you don't have the courage to ask the question, you're never going to know, right?
Yeah. That's a
Never going to
great
know.
point.
So with that, love to talk about this topic of passionate ambivalence. And I noticed I downloaded in the information that was sent through a one pager that talks about passionate ambivalence at every stage of the funnel. So I'm not sure we'll go through all of them, but
Yeah.
I'd love you to I just give a high level overview of this concept of passionate ambivalence and how it can really differentiate.
Yes, I think when we have talked about that concept just in the course of this conversation, we've talked about it at the chemistry call or the fit
Mm.
call or the initial call or at closing. And I think those are really familiar places to think about the stuff that I've been batting around. But from my point of view, passionate ambivalence starts at the very, very end of the funnel. So if you are a founder or a CEO and you get an incoming opportunity, just shows up over the transom, you know this, you've been doing sales most of your career,
Yeah.
and that happens. When that happens, I start qualifying. And I'm not qualifying to like make the system more efficient, although there is some of that, right? And there are, people talk about marketing qualified leads and sales SQLs, and then marketing and sales fight about that every month at the, goal realization meeting. And that's always fun and very predictable. But I'm talking about it as I want to get the person on the other side to move some toward me from the very beginning.
Mhm.
So instead of just rolling over when I get an incoming lead over the transom and saying, sure, let's do a call, half an hour of my time. I happen to work in large part for time. That's a lot of value for me. What I
Mm.
will do instead is I will give them some homework. I will
Mm.
say, hey, this is so nice. Thank you. I mean, it depends. Like if my favorite client referred me to somebody, that's a totally different qualification level. But if
Yeah.
it is just coming over the transom, I'll just give them a little bit of homework. Please go check out my site at heysue.com and let me know if there's anything you see that lets you think that I would be a good fit for you.
Mm.
When they come back and they tell me the reasons they think I'd be a fit or my company would be a fit, I might say back to them, hey, by the way, if you're talking to more than 3 companies about this opportunity, I'm going to politely exit myself from the process. There are a lot of good folks out there that can help you, but I have a lot going on and I don't find that to be a great use of time.
Yeah.
What have I done using ambivalence that way?
You've said, well, I hear I'm not going to compete with anybody. You deal with the best. You keep talking to me.
I mean, I'll give them a little room. They can talk to two other people, but you know the drill. These folks that want to interview and go through an RFP, and
Oh,
who has time
please.
for that?
No, exactly right. Well, what you've said, you've actually differentiated yourself, but respectfully to say, hey, I'm not, and the message there is, I'm not going to be playing the discounting game. I'm not going to be
Right.
playing these are my features and benefits game, right? And if you want to play that game, then I'm probably not the right fit for you anyway. So you're getting very clear again on who you want to attract.
Yeah, that's the game. And
Now,
you just do it the whole way. So
here's
that,
a question for you though, Sue.
yeah.
There might be people out there listening to this who are thinking, wow, that's all well and good when you're running a multi-million dollar business, but when I'm in a position where I don't know where my next sale's coming from, I don't have the I don't have the luxury of pushing away prospects.
So I would say, Darren, I think for those people, they might deploy this more aspirationally than literally. They may be thinking, hey, in a year, this is where I want to be. So they may be a little more open. Their funnel can be more open. They're not
Yeah,
as busy, so they have more
yeah,
time. So that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah,
However, I would actually say, if pushed, they will still generate more revenue from this strategy than a more open strategy. This is not simply trying to optimize my time for me to go on great hikes in the mountains. This strategy is built around the idea that you will close more and at more premium price points if you deploy this strategy.
yes. And the key thing that's the whole theme through all of this is ethical. This is filled with integrity. This is not a profit grab. This is not overpricing your services.
No.
It's knowing what you're truly worth and being able to stand firm on that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no deception at all,
No,
actually.
no.
Look, that's important. I mean, I don't lie ever. If it's not true, if I'm actually not busy, if I have zero client work, I'm not going to say I'm so busy I can't make time for it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So a huge part of putting yourself at the center of the sale is who are you as an
Mm,
authentic seller or an authentic solopreneur or an authentic founder? That is what you want to be putting out into the world,
mm.
or else you'll be the fact is if you're not that, if you're not authentic and you're not excellent at something,
Yeah.
this will not work.
Yes. Yes. So you don't want to be and this comes down to like most successful businesses, most successful people, they specialize. They're not a generalist. And
Huh.
you think about like my daughter has just graduated as a medical practitioner. She's in her first year as an intern. She's got 2 years of being a generalist, but before
Yeah,
she's got to specialize, and she knows that there's a whole lot more study. But the more study, the more specialized you get, the more of an expert potentially you become, and the more of that is valued in the marketplace. So don't
totally.
don't be a generalist. But a lot
Yeah,
of people, think, well, I've got to go and be a catch-all for everybody, and you don't. You don't. It's okay not to have customers that are not fitting your ideal customer profile.
yeah. And just to say, like, I want to skip most of the funnel just for the sake of time and interest, but I let passion and ambivalence go all the way down to the very bottom of the funnel, which is delivery. And if something isn't working, if we engage in a piece of business and the product market fit or the person customer fit that we thought was there isn't there, I have 100% money back guarantee and I don't need to be asked. If it
Yeah.
just doesn't feel right, I will make a different decision. I will let someone go because that isn't going to be it might be a source of short-term revenue, but most reputations
Mm.
depend on long-term ROI and long-term delivery of awesomeness, and that's the game that I'm playing. So I would say that even for the 22-year-old, that's
Oh,
the game they should
absolutely.
be playing too.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree with that because
Yeah.
the reputation, well, it far goes beyond your current standing. It's everything you've said. It's everything you do. It's the customers you touch. It's the ripple effect you have. But unfortunately, there are a lot of sales organizations that look at their customers as the here and now, and they try to squeeze as much revenue out of their customers in the here and now, as distinct from saying, well, hang on, we're not completely wedded to them being our customer forever, but if we treat them respectfully and treat them with care and kindness and give value, then we'll have this customer for a long period of time, but also we'll have other customers that they'll introduce us to
Yeah.
that will enable us to increase our profit per or our revenue per customer and have a lifetime value.
Yeah.
It sounds so, as we're talking, it sounds so founded in common sense, but then we've got this neediness that comes in because we're always fighting for the short-term fix.
Yes. I guess yeah, I couldn't agree. You and I are in radical alignment.
So, what do you say? Because I'm sure that you come up against people that are looking to engage with you, looking for advice, or might have come from a different perspective. What do you say to the people that perhaps have a different view of sales? They say, "No, this is a hard sell. We've got to get this. It's all about us." Um, it's not a case of trying to convert them like it's a religion. But for people that maybe say there's a different way of doing this, they might have been brought up in giving is not the way to do it. It's always got to be asking first. And just look at society today as a generalization. It's like, hey, come in first, right? Look at the young kids. They go through school and they get their parents being telling them that you're a winner. No matter what you do, you can have everything you want. So make sure you ask for it. Um,
Right.
just your thoughts on that from a society because kids that are in maybe primary school, high school, going into college today, they're the future leaders. And
Yeah.
I've got a bit of a concern that if they're taught those kind of values, not taught what we're talking about today, then it's a bit of a challenge for future generations.
Yeah, I think well, number one, I'm really, really optimistic about younger people, incredibly optimistic. I think that as a combination of just where our culture has been going, you talked about woo-woo, like, frankly, I find those generations to be more in touch with themselves than older generations. They're really willing. Many of them have therapy. There is zero taint at all to
Yeah.
being in therapy. It's actually a mark of wisdom, which is amazing. Uh, and I think that they have more capitalist antipathy than I do. I mean, I
Okay.
love capitalism. So I love the question. I think the truth is some sizable number of those people are just going to have a really rude awakening when they hit a wall and they think that a promotion is an entitlement or a sale is an entitlement or a BMW is an entitlement. I think that for a whole lot of those people, that's going to be very disappointing. And it would be a lot less painful to reduce the risk of hitting that wall by leading with generosity, openness, and authenticity instead of that. And some number of those people, just look at politics in my country, sorry, political message, but some number of those people aren't going to win.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I can live with that. I'm ambivalent about that because I can't control the whole pool. So I just do my best.
I love that answer because it's very similar in Australia as well. Probably not to the same scale as America around politics, but we've got some significant challenges here in Australia with our political leaders and their just their approach and stuff like that. Um, I also share a level of your optimism as well with the younger generation. Part of the challenge though for some of them, and certainly the ones that I've dealt with, is helping to teach them a bit more self-reliance and a bit more
Uh,
resilience.
yeah.
Understanding that you might have been brought up being told you can have everything and everyone gets a participation trophy, but you will hit a wall. And it's not saying that in a derogatory sense, it's just getting them prepared and teaching them the resourcefulness that when that happens, they have the resourcefulness to deal with it versus, oh my God, they'll go back to mum or dad and saying, what's happened? You told me, did you tell me a lie? Did you sell me a lie?
Yeah, I think
So
that's a good point. Yeah, and in that dynamic, I think I think the parents are collaborators or colluders in creating that pattern. So it'll be fun for the children and the parents to undo that one together.
They will. They will. So, Sue, this has been a great conversation, and I'd like to just ask you, out of the book, and we're going to promote it on sale early September. Are there other key concepts in the book that you think as well worth talking about?
Yeah, I think the one thing we didn't talk about, which I just want to address, is that you can also be adding value. Like a way I think about this is adding value all the way through the sales process. You can be educating your prospects, not just about what you are doing or what you are selling, but what the market landscape looks like, where you think the puck is, sorry, hockey metaphor, I don't know about that in Australia, but where you think the puck is going.
Yeah,
AI is, in every podcast I'm listening to right now, like what AI means 3 years from now for the sector that you're operating in and your prospects are operating. For a solopreneur like me, what that means when I'm in my solopreneur hat is when I do a chemistry call, when I get to that point and we're really talking about working together, I'm not holding anything back. If there's value that I can add to that conversation, I'm not having the position that, oh, let me wait till they pay me before I add value. I don't want to give away the milk about the cow or whatever statement that is. I'm like, I'm giving away the milk. I mean, I hope it's useful. And the experience I like to give people throughout the sales process is this is exactly what it is like to work with me and with us. It is direct, it is honest, it at least intends to be fair. You can't, fairness is not something you can evaluate for someone else, but it's at least an objective you can have.
yeah.
And the goal is a mutual win. That's the goal. And I'm doing that the whole way along. And I just think that there's just not only is there no better way to run a sales process, but there's no better way to run a life.
Mm, I love that, and it's I love the way you articulated that to say, hey, this is who I am. This is what you're gonna get. So it's not, oh, you're gonna get a different version of Sue after you go through the paywall, and on the other side, that's where the secret elixir is. No, this is it, right? So, and I often hear this to businesses say, oh, don't give away all your secrets. You've got to give them just a little bit as an enticement, but then they get the real bonus, but they've got to pay for the bonus. No, just be you because they're going to buy you. So just be you. If that means you give value away and that's worth something to them, and if they don't end up working with you, that's okay. You've now just planted a seed. It might be they'll come back to you, or it might be they'll speak to somebody else who will be a referral who will come back and actually work with you. But don't do it for the neediness of a paycheck or a retainer. It's just
Yeah.
do what's right.
It also implies a really scarce view of the talent and benefits you can offer. If you're thinking to yourself, I have 5 benefits I or my product can offer.
Yeah.
I don't want to give away 2 of them. Like if you have a more of an entrepreneurial mindset, you're thinking like, I don't even know how many benefits I can offer. And that's going to change over time as I learn, we learn about each other and in the
Mm.
business that we work on together. So yeah, again, radical alignment, Darren.
It's just give value, right? And I'm a big follower of John Maxwell, and he always talks about just give as a leader, give with no expectation in return,
Yeah.
but just keep giving. And when you feel as if you've given everything, just give some more, right? Because it will come back, but you're not doing it because it's going to come back. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do, because you really want to pour into other people and help them become better versions of themselves or help their business or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. Um, so, so Sue, this is coming out on the 9th of September. So this episode is going to be released around that time. So people listening to this, it is now around the 9th, 10th, 11th of September. So do yourself a favor and grab a copy of your book. So for people who want to know more about you, connect with you, and obviously get a copy of the book, where's the best place for them to do
Yeah.
that?
Thank you for asking. You can find me at Hey Sue, that's HEYSUE.com. And you can learn more about the book Never Ask for the Sale at heysue.com/book or at Amazon or your local bookseller.
Love it. Love it. Excellent. I'll put those in the show notes so people can know where to get access to it.
Thank
And if
you.
it's okay, I'll put your LinkedIn URL in there as well. So people want to connect with you on LinkedIn, that would be
Lovely.
great.
Thank you,
And
Darren.
awesome. So if there was one final piece of wisdom or guidance from, I guess, your experience in what you've achieved, and certainly through the experience of writing the book, as we move into the last quarter of 2025 and into 2026, what would you like to leave people with?
Follow the things that attract your attention. It's not like you can live your whole life just following your patterns, but they offer tremendous insight on what will make you happy. And also, if you are younger than 100, you have lots of time and you can do lots of things in your life, and there are more doors open than you think there are.
That is a great advice. And for people who are sitting there thinking, "Well, I'm in my mid 50s, I'm coming into retirement. There's not much more left for me to do." Then, hey, change your paradigm, because that's your thinking. Because there are people in their 80s that are just getting started. So
I
great
agree.
advice. Hey, Suze, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast, and I wish you all the very best with the launch of the book. And whatever success comes from that, I know it's going to just help amplify the message to the marketplace, and continue to add value for you and all the people you're working with. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks, Darren, and thanks for all you're doing to just increase the conversation about cool aspects, really meaningful aspects of the selling process. I really appreciate what you're up to. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it. But also, if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com, and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.